The New Testament reading for this morning comes from 2 Corinthians chapter 5, and I'll be reading 17 through 20 as part of a larger meditation this morning. Here are the words that Paul wrote us. Anyone who is joined to Christ is a new being. The old is gone, the new has come. All this is done by God, who through Christ changed us from enemies into his friends, and gave us the task of making others his friends also. Our message is that God was making all human beings his friends through Christ. God did not keep an account of their sins, and he has given us the message which tells us how he makes them his friends. Here we are then, speaking for Christ, as if God himself were making his appeal through us. We plead on Christ's behalf. Let God change you from enemies into his friends. This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Dear friends, I think many of us have a passion for something, particularly a passion for something in this world. In fact, I suggest that for some in our TAPC family, it's easy to see passion in action. For some, it's the hunt for new great restaurants. For others, it's travel. Still others, golf. And others, gardening. You get the idea. Something that you will think about at night when you wake up. Something that you would put off daily chores to do in a heartbeat. Something that you all of a sudden say, where did the time go while you were doing it? Mine is flea market flip, barnwood builders, no demo reno. I could go on. And no, it's not watching HGTV. It's the process of restoring. This morning leads us from earthly restoration to thinking about divine restoration. We are reconciled to God, and we are also restored to a right relationship with him. Recently, I've been spending some time in the book of Psalms, and I find a whole lot of verses about restoring. You all know this one from Psalm 23. It says, he restores my soul. Doesn't that give us a sense of calm, peace? If my soul were a piece of furniture, I picture God slowly spraying a new coat of paint on it. But most of us know that the process of restoration is a lot more involved than just painting over our problems. In fact, famous pieces of art have been ruined because people have not taken the time to restore something and just paint it over the bad spots. So if restoration is not a simple paint job, I think we need some help back there on the mic. restore us. I suggest that the intention is for us to take on a process of restoring us, of reconciling us to Him. Listen to what happened when God restored His people in Psalm 126, 1-6. When the Lord brought us back to Jerusalem, it was like a dream. How we laughed, how we sang for joy. Then the other nations said about us, the Lord did great things for them. Indeed, He did great things for us. How happy we were. Lord, make us prosperous again, just as the rain brings water back to the dry riverbeds. Let those who wept as they planted their crops gather the harvest with joy. Those who wept as they went out carrying the seed will come back singing for joy as they bring in the harvest. That's what God wants for us. So what is that process God is talking about? Let's go back to furniture for a minute. I'm thinking about, just like all the physical restoration that has phases, we need to go through stages of restoration for God to restore us spiritually. The first thing you do when you start to restore a piece of furniture is to get rid of anything that needs to go. A more exciting word for this, we call it gutting. Ripping out things that are outdated or unsound. In our life, we may have experienced this unpleasant but necessary season of life. Just like sanding down that piece of furniture, God has to strip away everything that isn't what He intended for us. He has to remove every lie we believe and every false identity that we have claimed. Sometimes this process is painful and slow, but God is the master craftsman. He knows how to gently and safely remove the dirt and grime in our soul while leaving us structurally sound. After the gutting is done, you get a chance to plan. Once we can see the structural integrity of the piece, we can begin planning what the final product will really look like. This can often also be a difficult stage of the restoration process because we don't always get to see God's plan, do we? But as God restores us, He is never for a moment intending to leave us bare and raw. His plans for us are always good. He makes all things beautiful in their time. Psalm 51:12 said this, "Restore unto me the joy of your salvation and uphold me with your free spirit." Step 3 says lay a foundation. Before builders can start adding to a house, they must make sure that the foundation is strong enough to build off of. God is not a cheap handyman who tries to cut corners on us. He decides to build. When He decides to build something, His masterpiece will last the test of time. Once we reject the lies that we believe, the Lord spends time replacing all those misinformation pieces with truth and really establishing our identity with Him. So we have a strong foundation in His love. Psalm 118, 19 to 24. Open for me the gates of righteousness. I will enter and give thanks to the Lord. This is the gate of the Lord through which the righteous may enter. I will give you thanks, for you answered me. You have become my salvation. The stone the builders rejected has become the cornerstone. The Lord has done this, and it is marvelous in our eyes. For true spiritual restoration, friends, we must acknowledge that God is indeed the architect and builder of our very foundational being. Sometimes you just need to strip the walls and remove that asbestos, don't you? Expensive? Yep. Time-consuming? Yep. But necessary for a foundation built on God to become a new structure. Sometimes you remove the beautiful hardwood floor because the subfloor, you find out, is rotting. Sad, but necessary. But when all that is done, you enter the fourth step. Beautification. Finally, there is a complete structure with a strong foundation, no longer dirty and old. Something new has been formed. Now the excitement begins. Color and decorations are added, and the result is stunning. Do you ever watch HGTV? I constantly go, oh, absolutely. Suddenly, the chaotic season is over, and you have a beautifully restored masterpiece. God does the very same thing in your life. He fills you with joy and peace and blesses you with so many good new things to where you could never imagine settling for the life you knew before. You are restored again, whole, complete, and beautiful. He restores my soul. Restoration is not an easy process. If it was, I'd have my own HGTV show. But when we choose to trust God through the messy process of restoration, He promises to take our broken and hurting places and pieces and make them into something truly amazing. Hey gang, fall is approaching us faster than some of us would like. Perhaps it's a good time to begin an inside restoration project, or finish the one that you may have started years ago. God's time. It's never too late to restore it. And the people said, Amen. Amen. At this time, we'll have our offertory meditation. And I'm reminding you that while fall is approaching, so is our year-end budget time. And we are running some time. We have faith in God. That's why we believe in a faith-based budget here at Towers Area Presbyterian. There isn't any amount too small that we can't use right now before year end. So, with you and the grace of God, we will meditate on remembering that all things are God's to begin with. Christy has our meditation verse.
Today is Luke 6:38. Give it, and it will be given to you, a good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you.